Welcome back, viewers. We'll be discussing a story on the broadcast now that shakes the very foundation of Pakistan's sovereignty. A full-blown hostage crisis unfolded on the Jaffar Express. Over 400 passengers, including security personnel, caught in the crossfire. Rockets were rained down, railway tracks were blown up. If this doesn't spell a total breakdown of state control, what does? For years now, Pakistan has tried to silence Balochistan's separatist movement with brute force. Abductions, illegal detentions, even dumping bodies on roadsides. But here's the truth. Every crackdown has only fueled more resistance in Balochistan. The insurgency isn't just alive, it's evolving. Today, women and the educated middle class are joining the fight. Even Pakistan's own politicians just a few days ago had sounded the alarm. One MP claimed that Balochistan is ready to declare independence, while the leader of opposition admitted that several districts in Balochistan's Pakistan flag doesn't even fly anymore. And now Baloch rebels are taking the fire straight to the heart of Pakistan's infrastructure, which is the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, the CPEC. These rebels see China as a colonizer and Pakistan as an oppressor. The Jaffar Express attack is not just an isolated incident, viewers. It's a symptom of a much larger crisis. Separatism is no longer a distant threat for Pakistan. It's a reality which is unfolding in real time. From Balochistan to Sindh to Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, the cracks in Pakistan's unity are now deepening. The bigger question now is not whether Islamabad can crush the insurgency, but whether it can even contain it before it spirals out of control. Joining us right now, our guests on the show, Faraz Saeed, Pakistani journalist, Patikrit Payne, who's a geopolitical analyst. Faraz and Patikrit, welcome to the show. Appreciate you joining us here for the discussion. Faraz, I'll start with you now. Massive blow. Massive body blow to the Pakistan government. How did the Pakistani government did not see this coming? Because from what I understand, just a few days ago, there was a meeting of these anti-Pakistan forces, a meeting of Balochistan Liberation Army, Balochistan Liberation Front, Baloch Republican Guard and the Sindhudesh Revolutionary Army. All of these groups met and they decided that the Baloch movement is now in the decisive phase. Was the Pakistani government not alarmed?
Thank you for giving me the time. Of course, the Pakistani intelligence and Pakistani forces were on high alert, and this incident it can be considered as a security lapse, intelligence failure, and of course, the kind of movement in the latest past the BLA has held was surprising because in their latest moves they've adopted a hit and run kind of event where they were attacking isolated areas where there's less government administrative control, and they used to attack and then leave. I think they were probably practicing to practice this on a much larger scale, and I don't think that the security agencies were seeing this coming. It is of course a blowback. It is of course a security crisis right now. As per latest reports, 155 hostages have been rescued, but still terrorists, the BLA terrorists have held those hostages, the remaining hostages, into 3 different locations, being kept by suicide bombers, and about 27 terrorists have been utilized. 8 security personnel have been martyred. It's a fierce battle that is going on right now. The government is, of course, at loggerheads as to what has to be the next future plan. But I can assure you that this is going to be a much larger preface because, again, Pakistan in the past have already strike Afghanistan to root out terrorist, safe havens which were operating against Pakistan. I think after this operation is ended and the hostages are rescued, there can be an expansive operation
Faraz,
which might extend
sorry to
into
interrupt. The
Afghanistan
problem is,
as well.
we've seen every time Pakistan has tried to push down this particular sort of incident, it has only escalated further. The next time something like this happens, it only happens on a much larger scale. Patikrit, this brings me to my next question. Do you think the fact that Pakistan initially was dismissive about these groups, claiming that they were funded by India, they did not have an agenda, do you think Pakistan undermined the power of these groups and is now paying the price?
Well, Ashish, Pakistan has always used terrorism as an instrument of statecraft up till 2016 or 17, There was considerable persecution that happened in Balochistan, and they never included people of Balochistan in their development process. So, actually, what's happening is this: the anger, whether it is in Balochistan or Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, is primarily against the Punjab province of Pakistan. That is where they think that the Punjabis of Pakistan are exploiting the rest. What has happened is this: from 2018 onwards, the funding for war against terror stopped from United States to Pakistan. And today, if you see what is happening, Faraz, is right perhaps that there will be operations by Pakistan Army after this. But what would you bomb? There is nothing left. These are barren lands. And in many of the regions of Balochistan, the army of Pakistan simply doesn't go out of their own garrisons. So if you look at it, there are 3-4 things happening. There is a joining of hands between Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan and those in Balochistan. So you see some of the tactics that TTP had are being emulated by Balochistan today. Secondly, there is no scarcity of weapon systems today with Baloch, because I'm sure the weapon systems that was left behind by Pakistan's greatest ally, United States, in Afghanistan, are being routed into Balochistan as well. And they are deliberately targeting the Chinese installations, creating problem for Chinese investments in Balochistan, because they know it hits Pakistan the maximum. I think Pakistan obviously somewhere undermined the proportion of threat. For all practical purposes, it is still part
but
of.
Again, Patik, do you think that the problem here, one of the major reasons for this entire discord, is the fact that now these rebels not just see Pakistan as an oppressive state, but also they look at China as an occupier? Because you have the Gwadar port, which is in Balochistan, the CPEC. The entire understanding is that Pakistan is basically selling their land to China for benefits and profits without even consulting the locals.
You are absolutely right. If they had made people of Balochistan part of the growth strategy that they have with the Gwadar port and the CPEC, I don't think this would have happened to that extent. But I think there is resentment in Balochistan, not just because of the severe persecution of people that happened in Balochistan, where Pakistan Army even used Cobra helicopters, armored personal vehicles to crush them, also because they feel that their resources are being siphoned off by the Punjab province primarily of Pakistan, and China is being given it all.
Absolutely.
Without taking into consideration.
That's one of the major concerns, Patikrit, the fact that there was no dialogue. And I need to get Faraz in here to add on to this point as well. Faraz, I still remember, I think in 2006, Parvez Musharraf basically came out with a warning to all the Baloch rebels. He basically said that this is not the 1970s. You can't just attack us and hide us. We'll come, we'll chase you, and we'll eliminate every single one of you. Just a few weeks later, Nawab Akbar Bukti as well, the leader of the Baloch movement, he was killed as well. And the entire understanding here in Balochistan, and one of the things that Baloch rebels say, is that the Pakistan government has never ever bothered to understand the priorities of the Balochistan people, never prioritized their demands, but instead has only tried to force their agenda and their narrative. Do you think the fact that Pakistan never engaged in a dialogue, every time there was some sort of a rebellion, it was crushed, do you think that is now coming back to haunt Pakistan?
I mean, firstly, I am questioning the line of questioning that you have, because again, you're highlighting and galvanizing the terrorists' narrative as to how Pakistan is being seen as an invader, and Pakistan is being seen as land seller to the Chinese. I mean, terrorists are terrorists. They will be dealt like terrorists by brute force of the state. Their narrative cannot be accepted. Their narrative cannot be galvanized. Narrative cannot be mainstreamed at all. Terrorists cannot be negotiated with, and that is an absolute policy of the modern day state of Pakistan. As far as your question is concerned,
Mr. Faraz Saeed, sorry to interrupt you, but you basically are accusing me of peddling a separatist agenda. But let me put it on record now, the fact that nationalist Balochistan leaders, right after partition, were trying to seek an independence. Pakistan did not allow them that. Immediately, just one day after the partition, Balochistan leaders declared independence. It was Pakistan that annexed the land 9 months later. So if anything, dialogue is what Pakistan should be engaging in, not actually trying to... Basically the narrative, Faraz, the narrative for us, let me help you understand. I'm not sure if you know too much about what's really happened. The narrative basically is that Pakistan was created basis a particular religion, but then you failed to regard and respect the cultural traditions. You might have 4 provinces, 5 provinces, but you don't respect the traditions. You want everyone to function. What these Baloch rebels say is as per the Punjabi tradition, Punjabi agenda.
I mean, are you? I've never seen the government of India negotiating with the Maoist separatists. They've always launched brute force of the state against Maoist rebels. I have never seen your channels raising questions as to how to negotiate with the Maoist rebels in the past. Junagadh was occupied by your state by brute force. Their leaders said that
negotiations have happened.
Pakistan. I mean, do not give me
people have surrendered.
Here because we all know
development has happened. Mr. Faraz, development has happened. The so-called Maoist regions that you talk about, there has been development happening there for the past 5 years. I'll ask you to read more documents, more records. There has been development happening. The government of India has not crushed the people voicing their concern. The government of India has not crushed the voices of the people and annexed their lands. That's the difference. You cannot link what's happening in the Maoist regime. All right, tell me why is there a similar movement in Sindh as well?
By your definition, if you push development, any country can invade any country. Any country can invade any state. That means Canada should become the 51st state of the United States of America after Trump's ruling. I mean, what are you even talking about? Development is not the solution.
Mr. Faraz,
the occupation. Development is not the solution to any problem.
I appreciate your optimism. The fact that there's a train hijacked in your nation and you're sitting here talking about the 51st state of the United States. Patikrit, I want you to respond here to Faraz Saeed.
If you to understand my argument, then I have to bring out such arguments. I have to...
Ashish, just give me... Faraz,
Patikrit, I want you to respond, please.
Faraz, in case of Maoist thing, let me tell you, there are thousands of Maoists who have been given the rehabilitation packages. They have surrendered. There are development happening. They are part of the mainstream today. And at the same time, yes, anti-Maoist operations is also a reality. When it comes to Balochistan, let me tell you, Faraz, yesterday probably when we were in another program, let me tell you this. First and foremost, you allowed America to, plant radicalism in Pakistan to oust the Soviets from Afghanistan. Then you allowed it. Then you used terrorism as an instrument of statecraft. Then you created Taliban to control Afghanistan. Then you bombed Taliban to please Americans. And in between, you used brutal force to crush the aspirations of people of Balochistan. I agree, terrorism, wherever it happens, must be condemned. But you cannot have a two policy where whenever it suits you, you use terrorism as an instrument of statecraft, and then you crush people, and then if they use it, then you say that this is terrorism, we are a victim of terrorism. You must have one singular policy. In case of Maoism, you say, in 80% of the districts where Maoists were active, it has absolutely been done away. It cannot be done with military. We haven't done it with military. Anti-Maoist operations were not done by military in case of India. And at the same time, we did not use helicopter gunships. At the same time, we must understand there was rehabilitation process. Those people became part of forces. Those people became part of education process. Please read the rehabilitation process. And let me tell you, terrorism, I agree with you, wherever it happens must be condemned. But you must understand, people of Balochistan feel they have been shortchanged by the way Nawab Bukti was killed. I think you need to go into that. I believe that Pakistan is suffering today, but you must accept that terrorism that was used as an instrument of statecraft by your country was wrong, and that is where it has turned to Frankenstein. But that is not where your country is not willing to accept, and that's why the same Taliban, which was created by your country, turned against you because you played the double game. You created them, and then for the fear of America, you allowed them to bomb the Taliban. So understand, a state is a very important sector. State cannot be disintegrated, but the people must be part
Faraz,
of you only when
right,
you
Patikrit, you made your point here. I'll also get in Faraz now that the tempers have cooled. Let's also get in a word from Faraz Saeed here. Faraz, now the reality of the thing is, separatism is plaguing Pakistan from left, right, and center. You're talking about, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, TTP is a major concern for you there. Balochistan Liberation Army here in Balochistan, Sindh as well, the Sindhudesh Liberation Army, the Revolutionary Army as well. How does Pakistan plan to counter all of these? Because everyone is having a single agenda to overthrow the Pakistani regime. And with all of these forces combining now, there was a meeting as well, like I told you, just not many days ago. There was a meeting where they've now decided that the entire fight against the Pakistani regime has entered a decisive force. What's the plan of action of the Pakistan government?
Well, the government and the security forces are absolutely clear on the situation that they're going to root out last terrorist that stays alive in Pakistan, and they're going to fight all frontal war, even if we have to open up every avenue to root out the menace of terrorism. That has been absolute policy of the government, because again, terrorism poses an existential threat to any nation whenever it occurs. So until unless last terrorist is killed, there's going to be an ongoing military operation to root out the menace of terrorism. And I must also, the gentleman was very rightly in said that the terrorists must be condemned everywhere, and how Pakistan was in aligning with the Western allies when it created the Taliban, and the Frankenstein monster became so big. I mean, that is the reality. And I acknowledge the fact that, it was the Western allies in cahoots with Pakistan. And, Pakistan's soil was used, Pakistan's resources were used, and Pakistan lost hundreds of billions of dollars to its economy, thousands of lives lost over many, many decades. The point is, the Pakistan state has also learned, and it has evolved. What Musharraf used to say, it is no more a reality in today's Pakistan, because we've accepted that the 80s and 90s policies was wrong. Whatever Zia triggered in Pakistan, the Kalashnikov culture, the Talibanization, the radicalization, it was all wrong. The state has learned, and state is evolving. Of course, the menace of terrorism is there. I always want to clarify one more thing. In 90s, when Afghan jihad ended, the Western allies left, and this Frankenstein monster was left for Pakistan to deal with. In 2021, 20 years down the lane, the Americans fled from Afghanistan, and again it was the Frankenstein monster was left for Pakistan to deal with. So we are dealing with, and of course it is hurting us bad. There's an upsurge in terrorism in January alone, 41% upsurge.
But for us, one of the allegations is Pakistan only complains when the terror, which is in their own backyard, tries attacking them. It does not complain when it is helping them. So that's one of the allegations that's coming to the fore as well. And besides that, for us, one of the things that people of Balochistan today say is that not everyone is on the ground fighting. Some of them still have hope in the state of Pakistan. All they want is the Pakistani government to pay heed, to help in development in the region. The entire narrative that is being built by these rebels is that Pakistan does not care for the people of Balochistan. How has the government of Pakistan tried to dismiss this? Because fighting alone won't help you win. You might kill, tomorrow there will be some more rebels who will come up and start fighting against Pakistan. What has the state of Pakistan done to dismiss the concerns of the people of Balochistan besides fighting?
Ashish, I'm going to reiterate one thing again. That there is a legislative elected government to vote after every 5 years, and they have an elected assembly where their representatives discuss their grievances and discuss their concerns, and those concerns and then picked up by the federation in the national for development in the past many years by the Prime Minister, apart from their own...
All right, there seems to be some sort of an issue with Faraz Saeed's feed, but again, Patikrit Pain. All right, you're back online, Faraz. You're back online. You were talking about the government as well. Just to get you some details of it, just earlier this month, Maulana Fazlur Rahman claimed that 5 to 7 districts in Balochistan are ready to declare independence. Omar Ayub, the leader of opposition, stated that the Pakistani flag doesn't even fly anymore in most of Balochistan districts. So your own leaders are aware of what's happening in Balochistan. Do you think fighting is the only way forward?
You see, we often forget that governments in the past have tried to negotiate with these Baloch leaders and Baloch separatists even in the past. We condemn, and we want to label military regime as bad in the past, and I love doing that. But even during Zia was a Punjabi establishment representative. He was the one who picked up this case that once and for all, he relinquished all the cases against Baloch rebels, Baloch separatists, to start afresh. But what did they do? They picked up arms against the state when the state showed them some kind of mercy, when the state wanted to reconcile with them. So whenever the state shows some kind of soft hand towards these rebels and these
But the reality
people,
also for us is the fact that when the state wanted
back.
to reconcile, on the other hand, you also had a person like Musharraf, who in 2006 basically told people that you cannot anymore escape from us. We'll find you out, we'll hunt you down, and we'll kill every single one of you. If that's the message that a leader of Pakistan sends out, how do you not expect people, even common people, to become rebels? I think that's again the crux of the issue. But Faraz Saeed and also Pathik Pain, really appreciate you joining us on the broadcast here for this discussion. And viewers, lots more lined up on the other side. Stay tuned.